Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about the 8 essential rules of buying trendy bags. I know buying trendy versus classic bags is always such a popular topic, and my view on buying trendy bags has definitely shifted over the years, especially as my collection has evolved, and now I do have some rules I try and stick to when it comes to trendy bags. So I thought I would share those with you if you're also kind of debating what kind of bag you should go for and where your money is best spent. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get started. So firstly, I thought I should do a little definition of what I consider to be a trendy bag. So I'm sure people have different ideas, but for me a trendy bag is something which is super popular and kind of trendy, but won't necessarily hold its value over the long term and wouldn't necessarily be considered a classic bag that you'll be able to use in 10 years time, for example. So a Chanel classic flap is the polar opposite of a trendy bag. It's been around for many years. They don't change the design. It's just kind of always the same and always just a quite classic, albeit not particularly innovative style. Whereas on the other hand, you have trendy bags which are much newer, a fresher design, and aren't as kind of tried and tested. And some bags do actually morph into classics, I think, but others fade away and aren't so popular after a few years. For me personally, I always used to stay away from trendy bags. When I was initially building up my bag collection, I really wanted to focus in on very classic bags which I knew would hold their value and I'd be able to use for many years, which is why I have so many Chanel classic flaps. Chanel is my favorite bag brand anyway. I love the classic flap. I know it works with my style and I just love everything about it. So I really made sure before buying any other kind of trendy styles, I really zeroed in on the bags I wanted from Chanel. But now that I feel like I have my bases covered there, I do like to experiment with more trendy styles. Not all the time, I still do try and qualify my purchases, and I also do have price limits when it comes to trendy bags. But that said, I'm still happy to indulge every now and then, but I do try and follow these rules where I can. So my first rule is to always try to avoid paying full price, and obviously this would be a rule for anything in life, but particularly when it comes to trendy bags, I do think it's really important. Certainly more of the so-called classic brands and classic bags, it's almost impossible to get a discount. So here I'm thinking of Hermes, Chanel, Louis Vuitton. Unless you buy Preloved or if you get certain styles at an airport duty free, it's impossible to get a discount. It just doesn't really happen. Chanel never put their bags on sale. The same with Hermes, same with Louis Vuitton. When it comes to not those brands though, it is very possible to get a discount, and it's very rare that I will pay full price for what I consider to be a trendy bag, just because I don't think it's necessary. You know, it's very possible to get a discount code, whether that's a welcome code. A lot of stores do 10% off your first order. You can even use the new email address if you do already have an account with them, or otherwise just the discount codes that stores offer on a regular basis. There are so many stores out there, and the competition is really high, from, you know, Farfetch to My Teresa to Net-a-Porter to Saks Fifth Avenue in the US. You know, there are just so many of them, and because competition is so high, it is possible to get discount codes. So I would always say to wait it out if you can. Shop around to see if there are any stores which do stock the bag that you want and if there are any available discount codes. My next rule, and this is actually something I learned from Mel Soldera. If you don't follow her YouTube channel, you really should. She is fantastic and so chic and stylish. She also does a ton of handbag videos, so I'll link her channel down below. But I love Mel. She is really great, and she has some great advice when it comes to buying and selling bags. And I don't remember what video it was. I think it was quite a while ago, but I remember her saying something and it's always kind of stuck with me, and that is she always tries to sell a trendy bag when it's still really popular, because if you wait for it not to be popular, you lose a ton of money. So what she does is she buys bags, and she's always very on it in terms of trends. She'll buy a bag as soon as it's out, and if she likes it obviously, and then she'll use it, she'll really enjoy it, but she'll try and sell it when it's still really popular to try and recoup as much money as possible. And I just thought that was such a clever way of going about it. I didn't really think of it in those terms before, but it's definitely something I try and keep in mind if I do want a trendy bag and I think that it might not be something that's in my collection for the long term. Then really trying to keep in mind that I want to buy it, use it, get a lot of use out of it, and then sell it at a good time. My next rule is about identifying forever bags. So if you are someone who, when they buy a bag, you really want to make sure you'll be able to use it for 5, 10, 20 years time without it seeming outdated, I would always say to wait it out. And I think the Chanel 19 bag is a great example for me. I was asked to share my thoughts about it and I did, and I said that I'm not sure it's going to be a classic bag, and that isn't me kind of casting doubt, I just don't know. I had a ton of people tell me that, or their sales associates told them it was going to be a new classic. But I think the thing is, when you listen to brands, all brands want their bags to be classic, so I don't always necessarily trust what a sales associate is going to tell me, because all they're doing is repeating the kind of party line. So when it comes to a bag which I may really like the Chanel 19 bag, I love it. I think it's so cute, and I would definitely want to get it. But I've also followed Chanel long enough to know that a lot of their kind of new releases don't necessarily stick around. And because they're so expensive, if I'm buying a Chanel bag at that price point, I really want to make sure that I'm going to be happy to use it in 10 or 20 years time. So for me, I'm happy to wait the 19 bag out. If by kind of the end of next year it's still really popular, I'm probably definitely going to get one because I think they're absolutely gorgeous. But I'm not in a rush to get it, especially if it means I could avoid making a very expensive mistake. So I always try and keep that in mind. If there's a bag I really want but I just can't tell if it's going to stick around for the long term, I just wait it out and see, and then if in 1 or 2 years time it's still really popular and I still like it, I'm happy to get it. The next thing I try and do is to pay attention to designer changes at fashion houses that I'm interested in, because it can actually have quite a big impact. And this isn't always the case, but sometimes when a new designer is appointed at a fashion house, they can go in and decide to change everything. And there are many examples of this, from Marbury to Saint Laurent changing to Saint Laurent. There are many examples of designers really wanting to put their stamp on their fashion house and changing a whole bunch of stuff. And where it becomes applicable to handbags is if they completely scrap the current handbag line, or if they do something quite drastic like change the logo. That can really affect resale value, what's currently seen as a classic in that fashion house, and it does have quite wide implications. A recent example of this is Claire Waite Keller, who is out at Givenchy, and they haven't currently appointed a successor yet. So I always try and keep in mind kind of what's going on, not at every fashion house, but definitely the ones I'm interested in, just to see what they're going to do and if that's going to affect any of their bags. My next tip is for those of you who are a little bit more patient, and if you do really love a bag style and you suspect it's a little bit more trendy but you love it anyway, then wait it out and try and get it pre-loved, because actually fashion trends turn over pretty quickly and things can go from super trendy to really not very quickly. And if you really do love a bag design, regardless kind of what's happening in terms of fashion trends, then waiting out a little bit and getting it on the pre-loved market can be a great way to go, and you can make massive savings. There are so many examples of this as well. You'll be able to look at so many of Chloe's designs. Even the Gucci Marmont has come down in price down the pre-loved market. So if you do really love a style, I would definitely say to wait it out if you can, and you could get a massive bargain. On the flip side of that though, if you did want a forever bag and you're really only interested in making kind of investments into your wardrobe that you're going to be able to wear for many years, then I'd say a key thing to do is to look at the bag brand's history, and you should be able to see a pattern. I referenced earlier that I've been around long enough and followed Chanel long enough to have known many of their big launches. They say that it's going to be a classic, and then a few years later it's not popular enough for them to continue to produce it. And I only know that because I followed Chanel for so many years. I remember their Blake Lively Mademoiselle bag launch, I remember their Cambon line launch. I was there for all of it, and even before I could afford to buy Chanel bags, I was following what they were doing. So once you kind of look back at a brand's history, it is really easy to see patterns. It does make you a little bit more skeptical, I think, when brands talk about their new classic bag, because essentially they're not always super in control of what becomes a classic. Yes, they do control how often they produce it and for how long, but that's often driven by demand. So that is always a really good thing to do. You can look at any bag brand and really look at their history, and that often does determine what's going to happen in the future. Hermes doesn't come out with that many bag styles, but the ones they have, they really stick to. On the flip side, Chloe constantly comes out with new bag styles, and they're always super popular for a couple of years, but then they begin to fade away and they stop producing them, and they are more on the trendy side. So if you're really invested in getting a forever bag, I would always say to look at a bag brand's history. My next tip is for those of you who have identified a bag that you want, are really excited about it, but you kind of know that it's going to be trendy. And I would say here, my rule for buying a bag which I know is trendy is to always make sure that one, it's a style that I'm going to like, and also it's a color that's been tried and tested. Because as long as you get something which you know you're going to use a ton, I think you're really going to limit the regret. And I think the Marmont bags are a great example of that for me. I got a lot of questions. I don't own any Gucci Marmont bags now, and I did get some questions after I sold my last one, which was my nude one, about whether I regretted the purchase, or purchases I should say, and I really don't. You know, I use those bags so much, and not all of them. The velvet one I got didn't get quite as much usage, but certainly my black and also my nude bag, I use those bags an absolute ton, and I really feel like I got my money's worth, because it was a good year and a half where that was like my go-to bag. Pretty much every other day I would use it. I love the bag so much, and because of that I have no regrets. You know, I bought it, I really enjoyed it, and then I was able to sell it, recoup some of my money, and if I break it down cost per wear, I really don't think it was that bad, because I did get so much use out of it. So I would always say just know what you like to wear, whether that's, you know, bright colors or otherwise just stick to nudes. Make sure it's a color that you know you're going to be able to match easily with your wardrobe, that you're going to get a lot of use out of, to make sure you're really going to bring down that cost per wear, which for me always makes for a much more successful purchase that I'm so much less likely to regret. And my very final rule and tip is to always just try and buy what you love, because that is and should be the biggest guiding principle behind any big purchase for your wardrobe. If you stick to what you love, regardless of trends and kind of other factors, you won't be able to go too wrong. And I do think it's important to keep in the back of your mind resale value and longevity and how much you're investing into that bag. But at the same time, if you get something which you really love and perfectly suits you, your style, the way you dress, you're going to have a successful purchase, regardless of how trendy it seemed to be at the time or what makes the it lists. None of that matters if you get the right fit for you. So that is always the biggest thing. If you really love something and can wear it really well, that will be the biggest indication of a really successful purchase, and something that I always try and keep in mind. You know, I do think a lot about resale value and, you know, how long it's going to last me, but essentially if I love something, then that really overrides everything. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree with these rules, if you follow them yourself, if you have different rules, or if you just don't follow any rules when it comes to bag buying at all. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please do give this a thumbs up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.